I remind you guys to speak into the microphones clearly and clearly, and you're ready and live.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And this
One
is,
question real quick. Do you need to bring Bob Berry,
I got you.
I mean Butch in here?
yeah, I think it's happening. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. I think he's coming.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let me go ahead and introduce us. We're in the basement of the auditorium. It's 5 o'clock. This is a workshop for the planning area boundary discussion for the expansion and looking at areas on the outside of the city limits for the city of Eureka Springs. We don't really, in a workshop, we don't do a roll call. do we?
Yeah, actually, I think I've got some information.
Okay.
When I sent that guideline out on this project, would you like another copy of it? Just so you've got it?
I don't know if I got it or not. Yeah.
I knew I
I
had.
printed one for me. So you-
Oh, you already have one. Okay, here you go.
Yeah. that'd be fine. Yeah, I've got one.
Okay. I don't know if you had one printed out or not.
Oh, is it
Discuss-
entitled that?
yeah. There we go.
I got it. Okay, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure. it's the same one.
The only thing that I added to this was how does HB 1510 affect this plan? So that
Right.
was the thing that the mayor had sent to us today.
Yeah.
As far as, basically, what does that mean to something like this?
Right, right.
So I know, Cassie, you've got the maps.
Right.
So are you guys okay if I just kind of go through this, or do you
Yeah, I
want
think what we're
to?
going to do, what I want to do is go ahead and everybody grab a map.
Go ahead, grab them and just pass them
Yeah,
out.
grab a map, bring it to your table, because it's hard to see back there.
Yes.
And then we'll discuss what we're looking at.
There's one map for each person. There's also dry erase markers.
There's one map for each person and what?
Dry erase markers.
Oh, okay. So one map, okay, guys, there's one map for everybody, and then there's dry erase markers for each person as well. Cassie, do you want one of these?
I'll take one with me when I go.
You can need a black one too. Step out of your way here.
No, you're good.
Tom, did you get your markers? Okay. Fergie, did you get your markers?
Yep, I got markers.
Mike, did you get your markers?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Ann,
So-
did you get your markers?
I did, thank you.
All right. Okay, so,
Now,
Yeah.
just a disclaimer, since these were bought with city funds, they are property of the city. So if and when you leave the commission, you need to return the map.
okay. Yeah, so you can take these home, but like I said, these are city properties, so don't lose them. But for this exercise and this workshop, and for following workshops, we're going to use these to help us delineate and identify areas that we believe would be our priorities for a planning area boundary.
So does anybody want to go ahead and make some suggestions on just throwing out some areas that you think should be on the list? I think that's where we probably should start.
Right.
I'm not the chair anymore, so Fergie, I think Ann has a question.
Yeah, I got to start with Ann. Go ahead.
Okay, so on 23 South,
And that's where?
it is Huntsville Road.
Is that Acords Hardware?
Yes, where Acords is. Okay, when you're going south, everything on the left up to the Assembly of God Church is city.
Okay.
Everything across the street is county. I don't know where it starts. I don't know if it starts at the treatment center.
Can we see that from our map?
Yeah, right here.
Yes.
Try to where it breaks
So
right
it's,
there and crosses over into the.
Yeah.
So if you look at Jordan Road, Jordan Drive, and you'll see the Highway 23 below it, and that area below south on where it says 23, and all the way down to where it says Dawson Drive, just north of that, we just go outside the city limits.
Yep.
So I propose that we include that.
Okay, so what Ann is talking about is the opposite side
Both sides.
of Highway 23,
Be all this.
proceeding,
Okay. How far out can we go? A mile?
we can, well, in this case,
Does
Yeah.
it take in Sanctuary Road?
right, I was thinking Sanctuary Road, maybe the boundary.
Or does it just go to the creek?
Well, the creek is
Half a mile, remember?
West Leatherwood Creek.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Can I just make a statement here? If we're going to include that area farther up north where it's Gretna Green Drive,
Okay.
where that's where right there at that point, where that, out of the city limits on the left, on the north part of it, can we just take 1 mile and run it parallel to the highway? That'll encompass that square and all, we get a mile, right?
My understanding is that is correct. Your assumption is correct on that.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking is,
So we could
can we
use-
just go, could we go as far as West Leatherwood Creek just as an initial?
We
And
could.
cover that whole
We could
side?
identify that as the boundary all the way up, actually, and take that boundary all the way up, and you'll see where the creek itself goes all the way up here to Dog Hollow Drive. You see up there to the north?
Or-
And it continues on, but if we use that one boundary, that creek bed, all the way down, we could use that as the boundary marker for a planning area boundary,
That-
all the way down to Highway 102. So we'd stop at Highway 102 and 23.
At the intersection of 23 and 62 going due west, how far is it to the creek?
We don't know yet.
Okay, because that's the biggest space.
Right.
Right.
That one space right there.
But just as an initial, I think we should,
sure.
if we could use it, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, creek's a good point.
Yeah, I think the creek is a great idea. Anybody else has any opinions on the creek
Well,
bed?
and I will say, because you said we're going to stop at 102, we don't have a picture of what's down there, so
Right.
from that point below, we can still go a mile.
We should,
I just
we
don't
could.
know what is there.
Right.
So,
But then you'd have, what about on the other side now? Do you want to go a mile out from that because our city limits stop right there at 102?
Right, I was just saying that that's all we can see.
Yeah, well, we
So-
work on one thing
so
at a time,
we-
right?
Yeah, I think just using this map and what we have on this map, we ought to just limit ourselves to what we can see on the map.
Yeah.
And if I can jump in real quick on the map itself, trying to get the scale right so that you can see it while also having that area around was difficult. So that's why it's this scale in particular. We do now have a link on the city website to our digital map that is where you can zoom in and out, not just the PDF version.
Oh, okay.
So that might be more helpful to look at when you're at
That's
home,
true.
especially
That's
for
true.
that north and south.
True.
Sure.
And also, as far as that mile is concerned, I don't think it's bad right now to just say, like, let's go to the creek, and then we can adjust that. You know, like, I can go back and, like, measure that on my computer and make sure we're not exceeding that mile.
That's very
and,
true. That's very true.
and let me ask you this, because there are some roads out here, Rhodes Drive, 104, St. Jude's Lane. Is anybody familiar with that area? Do you even know what's out there?
I'm not.
Has anybody ever driven out there? I never have. I mean, I'm always on
I'm not.
23.
I'm not.
Nope.
Okay,
I
all
haven't
right.
traveled that way out there. David, you got something?
Well, newest member of the commission here, so I just don't have the kind of perspective of the history which has led up to this process.
Right.
But I guess one of the things that, and I don't want to get too far off of here, but I'm trying to determine if you could just help educate me, and the public probably the most important, tell me what is the purpose?
Okay.
And what is the purpose?
Okay.
And what is the goal? What's the impetus behind why we're expanding the development plan?
Okay.
So it's particularly in areas that we haven't even managed to fully
I can tell-
administer the development within inside the city limits. And if it's in that vein, I just need to know what you know,
Right.
and that is, once you expand the extraterritorial jurisdiction, the planning area of the city, and it's not incorporated, but it's planning, that means you can certainly dictate certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Does it also give you the right to be able to collect sales taxes?
No. No.
So,
No.
Go
so
ahead.
this kind of started, David, I would say about 6 months ago.
Okay.
And we had received an email from the mayor
Okay.
asking, about this project.
Okay.
The Planning Commission has always been able to do something like this. It just has never been done. And so years and years and years and years and years have gone by where we've never done this. Yes, I guess the end result used to be that you could go out 5 miles from your city boundaries and say, this is our area development plan, that we are saying that at some time in the future, we're going to develop this area. Well, apparently over the years, we missed the boat of 5 miles and we're down to 1 mile.
I see that.
So we're down to 1 mile now. But planning again has never, ever, ever done this plan. Why? I have no idea. Is it advantageous for the city to have this plan? I think it is. And again, people are going to say, oh, well, this is, you're wanting to annex. This has nothing to do with annexing as far as planning goes. It just establishes that area that we're looking at, or areas that we're looking at that could be expanded for future development. So that's the goal right now, and that's how it got started, which was some conversations with, and here we are today.
Cool. So I know I do understand that. So if I own a business or if I own real estate that is not within this planning area, and this gets to city council, they approve this expanded planning area, nothing changes for me. It's a business owner or a property owner. Is that right?
Until they file a request for an election, and then there's an election by the people of Eureka to agree to expanding the city limits. So there has to be an election.
But you
To
cannot,
expand the city limits.
you cannot expand your city limits until you've established an area development plan.
Right.
Yeah, and any sales tax is a city sales tax.
Yeah.
Say what?
The sales tax is a city sales tax, so since this is outside.
Yeah, but
the city
that doesn't, I guess you answered my question,
Right.
and that is, that doesn't happen until the public votes on
Exactly.
annexing that area.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Then the sales tax
Right.
would
Right,
come into play.
exactly. And one of the steps that we've got to do is once we identify an area, then we're going to get the city to hire a survey, and they will have to get the legal descriptions of the areas, of all the legal descriptions, send those over to the county assessor's office over there at the county clerk's office, and then they say, okay, we acknowledge this area as a planning area boundary. And then at that moment, the city can can go down any area they can pick, or they can do it all.
Or they could do nothing.
They could do nothing. And so depending on, like I say, if they, it's up to the council and the mayor to decide on a schedule, areas, all that. So all we're doing is establishing that one step that had been missed for many years of setting up a planning area boundary in case the city ever wanted to. But right now they can't because we don't have one.
And in that plan now, do you also envision overlaying that with the recommended uses for that area?
Right.
Okay,
We can
so
say
we have-
parks or, yeah.
I know, I had this discussion already with Cassie. Right now, we are just establishing a map, an area map. From what I understand, we have to file it first, and we would not be able to designate zoning for this particular map at this time. It's a
Okay.
file first to establish the area development map, and then at some point down the road, if somebody decided to do something on another commission, on city council, or whatever, then that would be a step therein. Does that make sense?
It does. And I've been through planning processes for 40 years before cities were even doing this. I understand that concept. I just wasn't familiar with the nuance, right, of Arkansas law with
True.
respect to when a city can start not providing city services but imposing sales taxes. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. But yeah, I'm sorry to sidetrack.
Sorry,
but now
no,
I
you did. It's
understand.
what we're here for. It's what the workshop's all about.
All right.
So it's all about information.
Please continue on.
So-
I would say probably
Can I
as
say
a
one
number
real quick?
2 area,
is the mayor supposed to be involved in this?
I don't know, is he going to join us?
No,
Do we know?
I mean,
I
we'll
thought he
present
was.
it to,
I thought he
we'll
was in a
present
Zoom
it to
meeting.
city.
Yeah.
Well, this is for the meeting probably later on, or
Oh,
for our
okay.
meeting.
I understood he was going to join us for this.
All of this information will be presented to city council.
Okay. It's okay, yeah, I just did. I thought he was
Yeah,
coming in.
so, okay,
That's for the regular meeting.
Okay.
yeah. I know some talk has been mentioned about going out on Highway 62, and I would say for sure that we should probably expand out on 62 towards Berryville. What that means depends on how far we can go by a mile.
So, yeah, and so given the delineation on the map, we could go all the way to the edge of the map.
Right.
So I'd recommend that we look at the current north and south limits of the city limits and write a square straight all the way to the east to include Highway 62, but south of Highway 62.
Yeah, could we also do, if we kind of looked at that as being, what is it? Rustlin Road to 2070? Again, I don't know how far a mile is. And then take that whole section to the right of our map on 62 going towards Berryville? But then could we also do the section in here, sorry, I'm probably not close enough, the section in here that takes in part of Passion Play Road up to maybe 271 and make it block square there too?
Yeah, I agree. That looks good. So you said 2071?
Yeah, where 2071 is north of 205, kind of in that, you can see it, it's in white. And just kind of make a line up there and across to the right of the map.
I got you.
We'll look at that section. And then what about the area that is, I don't know if it's south or not, I guess south of 62, that takes in that extra area off of 23 and south of 62.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big area back there.
It is.
Does that make
the,
sense?
Okay, so yeah, including in, so we'd add in Lake Lucerne.
Like kind of,
I'll start this
yeah,
back
this
here.
one would go over to here somewhere,
Ah, so
right?
that's not correct.
And then this kind of goes here, right? And then what about this area here?
I see.
The one thing we could do is follow legal.
I know. We need portable ones, yeah.
You know, we've got, as far as, mapping, we've got section lines and quarter sections. And some of them would be real easy to say, well, this is
What section?
section
Yeah.
here, we'll just go, this section line and come down there.
That doesn't show up on that map though, right?
Right.
No, it doesn't.
That's the
Yeah.
topography one?
So 27, 26, all these all the way to the east. So we take all this.
Rather than saying about some road, we could say,
Right.
sections, that make it easier for the surveyor to
So it's true, it's true. So-
money-wise.
Okay,
Yeah.
so are you saying that once we kind of look at this, then we need to look at this map and say we need these sections?
Yeah, it may
I
simplify
think
it.
that
think
makes
that's
sense.
the
This
easiest
is
way.
actually a surveyed.
Is this your
parcel
map
zoning.
or,
This is just one.
This was here.
Oh, this-
That was mine, Susan.
oh, but the one that you had more of this on it, didn't it? Or did it not?
You couldn't read mine. It was an ownership map and it was a whole county. Well, yeah, this is
Yeah.
more readable. Like I say, it'd be
Right.
easy, to pick out half a section or quarter section or whatever,
And what is each section, like, what is is it a quarter mile or is it a half
Mile.
It should say that.
Quarter mile
It's a mile
section,
square.
1 mile square.
Here,
So
Yeah,
where's the
section is a
mile
mile
square?
square.
here it is, right here.
So the
Scale. Yeah,
full square is a mile square.
That'd be
Yeah.
620 acres.
right.
Okay, and then this would be another kind of mile in here, right?
Yeah, and then like I say, this is, quarter section. You got an eighth of it, probably, eighth of, so yeah, you can get, use the section thing, half a section east of east of so-and-so or west or north or something, you know, section 23, section 24, whatever. That may be a way to, once you get an idea of what you want, go ahead and try to use the section lines.
It would certainly be a less expensive way,
Yeah, yeah.
and we should delineate the boundary.
I have a question.
Make sure you're on their mic.
Bentonville in there, you know, they're paying $70,000, $80,000 to try to figure out where theirs are, you know.
Are we going to, we're doing this for future development, 10, 20 years from now. Are we taking into consideration the terrain in certain areas? I mean, certain areas outside on 62 and 23, unless we're going to build it on a
I think that right now we're just trying to say what makes the most sense, and then we'll probably weed it down from there.
Right.
And probably because of the train, because honestly, there are some areas up here by Pivot Rock Road that are north of 23 that might make some sense too. But if you've driven from here to Holiday Island,
Yep.
you might say, does it make sense?
Yeah, I understand, like
You know what I
23,
mean?
going down the left side, you're going to have a solid rock wall.
Exactly.
Yeah, anyway, those are just details we work out later.
I mean, I think we have to start somewhere.
Yeah, this is great,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, in some of these instances, it just seems like you can't overthink it. Just backfill some of the areas initially.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, there's certainly some areas that, for whatever reason, I have no idea why they didn't.
Figures?
Some of that point, you know, like Leatherwood, you know, it jumps in there because it's, you know, it's,
Yeah, there's a lot of area out there at Lake Leatherwood.
yeah.
So looking at the area on 23 North, outside of the city limits, in that area here, we can encompass all of 23 left and right?
Sorry.
I mean,
Going up,
I think
or where do you want to go?
I think on 62, there's 2415, 2413, 2410, 241, and like David was saying, just to backfill some of those areas might make sense just on this first initial run, and then go up as far as to like north of 23, up Pivot Rock Road to like 2664, if that gets us a mile. But then I don't know what the terrain looks like, so.
Yeah, there should be some practical considerations here, and I think we're taking those into account of some areas that no matter what you want to, they're just not going to be developed. And the topography is too challenging. And that doesn't mean they can't be in the planning area, but the areas that are more likely to be developed or that we want to encourage development seems to be where we should focus.
Yeah, and
So,
I think as you're driving, you're going to look at, the area off of 62 going towards Berryville.
Yep,
There's some
for sure.
flat areas in there that we should be able to take advantage of. And then also off of what Ann said, 23 South, going towards, going out that way for sure. I'm
sure.
just not sure about the 23 North going towards Holiday Island, and I'm not sure, there are areas on 62 going towards Rogers that we could backfill some areas there that I think are fairly flat. Unless you all can think of, some other areas, because the boundaries go all the way out to Lake Leatherwood. So we can go a mile past that if it makes sense.
That's correct, that's correct. The only delimiter going north is the existing boundaries of Holiday Island, and I don't know what their city boundaries look like right now.
Once you got on 23, also north, when you get past the steakhouse.
Talk into your mic.
Right, that's
That
on
split
23,
is right
right.
there.
Yeah.
That all flattens out up there. Yeah,
Right.
That's a good,
Right.
that's a good area.
But
there.
is that a mile or is that a mile and a half?
Well, is that those, this area right here is the city limits?
You mean at Sandrock Road?
Parallel to
That's
187?
correct. That's right, that's city limits.
That's city limits, yeah, we can go a mile past that. That
Yeah,
corner right
well, like I
there,
said, the only delimiter is the city limits of Holiday Island. But I was looking at east of that spot, and so we could bring in, like you said, those properties that
Yep.
are currently there.
That's a good area up there too. Flat, first flat.
Yeah,
And it's a junction halfway between us and Holiday Island. So
Right.
you're going to get that traffic, for development in the future for
So it looks like-
Restaurants or whatever.
It looks like we've probably got, what, 5 or 6 areas that
Same.
initially, maybe like 5 or 6 areas that we initially think might be contenders?
Sure, I'm just throwing out suggestions, so whatever.
No,
you
I
guys
know,
think.
but I mean, that's what this is for, right?
Sure, yep.
So, I mean, we haven't done anything yet. So, based on this discussion and based on this workshop, how do we go about, I know, Tom, you said something about, looking at the
Section lines.
the sections.
Yeah.
Do you feel like we would be able to do that and put something together that would say, okay, these are the ideas that we have?
Yeah.
Could we put something that was, that made sense to?
I think, and I'm going to probably load up Cassie, I'm sorry. Anyway, but I think if we took an image of what we're talking about right now, picture it digitally, take a picture of it with the red or markers on it, and give it to Cassie, and then Cassie can go back and look at this other map, and then in a scripted form, put those areas that are currently outside the city limits in those marker areas, those squares, and then give that back to us, and then we can look at what that looks. I mean, there's and like I said, once we get an area, then we can look at some priorities. What are we going to recommend to the city if you were going to develop something today? What would you do? Which is the most area. You know what I'm saying? We can give those recommendations to them. They don't have to take them.
But I think in this case, we are truly looking at what makes the most sense, regardless
Right.
of whether or not
Oh, I
they
understand.
want it or
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
because
Right.
it's for future development. So just like what
Right.
we said, it could happen, in 5 years, it could happen in 10 years, it could happen in 20 years. So the people that are sitting in those positions, just like us here,
Right.
we're not going to be here.
Right.
Well,
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Cassie, when you get a chance, how hard to put something else on you to get an overlay of a section map, just an overlay sections, mile sections, is we could lay it over this to give us an idea how
Would
far
you
out-
feel comfortable doing this, or is this beyond your comfort level?
To order another thing would be the difficulty in time and expense of ordering another thing. I could, now printing it out is a different story,
Whatever.
but I could make a map. I was actually going to write a note to myself to do this, to make.
Sections?
I could make one with whatever background we think is helpful that just does a full boundary of a mile. And then I could do another one that sort of shows the areas we're looking at, maybe even more zoomed in.
Do
That
you
could
have?
possibly just be on handouts or,
I mean, just my thought was a clear map, clear overlay that you lay on here that
Yeah.
just has the
Clear
sections.
acetate.
Square,
Yeah.
1 mile sections. That way we can lay it down and then we have to say, okay, that's 1 mile out, second section out. But if that's something you can't do, that's,
The question is whether or not you have the equipment to do that.
well, I can't print that in office. It would have to be ordered from,
Right.
even if I made the map, it would have to be ordered from.
Yeah.
I was just, I mean, that would give me a perspective on what a mile out
No, I think Mike's is on a right idea here.
sections there.
It's-
If you could break this map
yeah.
into
I think it's solvable with
1
money.
mile sections, even better, even better.
Well, let me ask you this. That map that Tom has in his hand right now, is that map, is that something that can be edited, or is it a PDF?
That cannot be edited. But I have a copy of the link I said earlier that is now on the city website. I have a copy of that one that I can edit myself.
So you could color code it if you wanted to show some new areas?
Yeah.
I mean,
To your knowledge, can this section map be ordered from a mapping service or an engineering firm?
Sure,
Yes.
McClellan ought to have it, because they did this one right here, so they ought to be
Right.
able to.
McKellen may already have it. We just have to ask them to get us kind of a transparent one we can overlay.
It seems to me that, I think Mike was right on the right track, is if we had a section map overlay,
you just lay
then
on
we
top.
could start with that, since that's going to be the least expensive way to identify the expanded areas anyhow. It's going to be jagged, we get that, But
Yeah.
I don't think the commission and the city can afford to do resurveying of all these areas.
No.
But I think that we could afford to be able to, if we found out the cost of getting that section map that would overlay to what the current city boundaries are, then we could easily mark out the rest of it. And I think it would also make sense when the time came to go to city council.
Yeah, they're going to need a visual.
Yeah, so let's do this. And by the way, under the city code here, in the planning commission, the commission may receive and spend funds from federal, state, county, municipal, and other public and private sources, and may contract with respect thereto, subject to existing availability of funds, and may hire staff and contract for consulting services. Well, I may know a private source who might be happy to provide that for the city, and if that's a conflict, then fine. Let's find out what the budget is.
So what I did, I don't know, it's probably been at least 6 months ago, I would think. I did go to the city council and told them that we were going to be working on this project.
Yeah.
And that more than likely, there would be an ask, which would be a financial ask. Because number one, none of us are experts.
No.
But we would, in order to get this to the county office, it has to be right, you know,
Yes.
as far as what sections and what areas we are looking at, and has to be done in a legal description that is correct so it can be filed. So there's going to have to be an ask, a financial ask for that to be completed, because none of us are that person.
Well, Marcel McClellan should have, if they did, you know, this map over here, that, you know, the current of the zoning right now, they should.
Was that McClelland?
Yeah, we've already
Yeah.
got a relationship.
And I
with
think
them.
there are, you know, like our, you know, engineering firm, I think you used them for years, you know. So I don't think it'd be that expensive. I think they probably all
I think
got
it's a
in that
must,
computer.
personally. I think we'd be
it's not
sitting
gonna
here the
get-
next 4 or 5 workshops trying to draw these lines.
Yeah.
It's not-
We need to have a basis.
You're not going to have
No, I
a lot of
agree.
different colors on it to charge additional price. It's just going to have the blocks, 1 square mile blocks.
And I suggest we just contact McClellan and
It's not gonna
see,
be
you know,
kind of-
what, if they have that in their files, and if they do, you know, what it would cost to reproduce it. Just get a number.
I'll tell you who would also have it, would be any title company.
Anyway.
Title company. So let's start with finding out what you think the budget might be for that. And I know for the first workshop, which I unfortunately missed, that was a topic. Is there a budget for what we're doing? I don't know if there's an
No.
answer there.
Planning has never had a budget, so, you know, there might have been a couple $1,000s put in there for some of us to go to, you know, a seminar or something like that. But we've, at least as far as I've known, and I've been here for going on year 11, I've never known planning to have a budget for this type of project. So it has to be an ask that would be approved by city council.
Okay?
So
How do we present something like that to city council?
we just present it.
Okay, so.
I mean, we have to start somewhere. And I think,
Right.
you know, I think initially, if we were to say, these are the areas that we are looking at, I think we should probably go out there and look at these areas. I think we should at least put that amount of time into it to go see if it even makes sense.
That's right.
And then, I mean, at that point, it's going to have to be presented to city council. This is not a long, drawn-out process. I think we should be able to get it done in probably 2 or 3 workshops.
I
Easy.
think you're right. I agree. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think you're exactly right. And I think the one thing, like I said, that having a good visualization of it, and then once we do that, and then it should be easy to delineate on that same digitally and submit that to the council, and then they can either say, yeah, submit that to the county clerks as a planning
Well,
area
they'll be
boundary.
doing all of that. So
Right.
once we say these are the areas that we're interested in, they're going to have to vote and agree with us that these are the areas that, I mean, we'll vote and say these are the areas that we think
Right.
as a commission make the most sense. And then that will be presented to city council. City council then has the opportunity to change it or vote on it the way we've presented it. But once it gets to that point, funding to finish that plan unless they send it back to us, they could probably do it completely through Cassie's office, I would think,
Yeah.
and file that immediately based on the vote from city council.
I think if the presentation of city council makes sense, this is the simplest form, the least expensive form.
Right.
And this is the most accurate visual form, too. So, Cassie, are we thinking right? Is there another solution here, do you believe? And the answer really relies to what is the simplest, most straightforward, cost-effective way in which to establish the legal boundaries of these new planning zones. We can mark up this map for the next 2 years. It won't make any difference if it costs $40,000 to do the legal descriptions. So what, in your judgment then, is there something else that we should be considering other than the basic section maps, which I just think will be the cheapest way to go?
At this stage, I agree that looking at section maps is probably the cheapest way to go. As far as, writing the legal description, you really want someone who has more experience with that than I do.
Well, sure.
But,
No, it's,
But it's a lot. It's a lot. Having been through a lot of land transactions, it's a lot different if you're doing section boundaries
Yeah.
by section.
Especially because, full disclaimer, these maps were paid for out of my office supplies budget, and that has to last me all year. So that's why, buying them at the end of 2024 was fine. Right now, I'm like, ooh.
No. Well,
Okay, so maybe
once you be honest
just as
about the whole thing.
as a normal everyday thing, maybe if you could provide how much you've spent so far, so that can be in the ask as well. So you'll get
That sounds like a
reimbursed
good
for the
idea,
project.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
So I think that's fair.
And also, to David's point about who we're going to get to do the legal part of it, we work with the municipal league, and they have lawyers too that can help us along that line as far as, and doesn't cost us anything.
Well, McClellan's already done work with the city for umpteen years.
Right.
They've already got.
They could do
yeah,
that.
we've already got a relationship.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, they're, and not just
Well-
Garvin, Deere, and McClellan, the two that do, most of the work in Northwest Arkansas. So, I mean, that's.
And if 70% of the new planning map is identified by the section boundaries.
Yeah.
But we have a few little carve-out areas that we need to do, well, then that's a much easier ask, right?
Right.
If someone, dude, we need a special legal for this area. Right? That's quite different than, here's just a big
There's a big,
map we've drawn
big
out.
picture.
Yeah,
Map it
exactly.
out. Yeah,
Exactly. Good luck with that.
True. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Cassie, do you feel comfortable doing it, or would you like me to help you with it? I don't want you to feel like this is completely on you, because
No.
obviously this is a commission project.
Let me, on my own map, mock up a couple things, and I can send them out, and you guys can individually give me feedback. And then I can also reach out to some people and see what it would cost just to print a basic, transparent section overlay.
And I'd
Hopefully
recommend that we use Tom as a point person for you to interact with directly, because this is the map guy.
He
This is
knows
the map
maps.
guy. He's the map guy. So I think that's a good source. So, that way you don't have to worry about contacting all of us,
Okay.
just directly to him. And then at the next workshop, we can see where we're at.
Do you think that, I see us doing no more than 2 or 3 workshops with this
Right.
group. And then I think we should have a workshop with city council as
Right,
well.
exactly. I think the last one should be with the council.
Right.
And just express what we're looking at, and then get them to tell us what, okay, and, and then we just move forward from there. And put it, maybe that's a stone that we basically put in place, and we have that done, and from then on, that we have a planning area boundary.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to go, I know it's on our agenda, but if we could go ahead and set some dates for the next follow-up, so we can maybe be,
Do we want the next workshop to be same time before the March 11th meeting, because that'll be in
Yeah.
2 weeks.
I think so.
I think that's okay.
Yeah,
That works.
would you get the overlay?
Okay.
Depends on how many people desperately need me, you know.
Right, I understand. I understand. Well, I'm hoping that you'll be so busy with new applications for construction or something, but I don't know if that's, I don't know. We'll see what spring brings.
I would
Okay.
be willing, if you do not have time, I would be willing to come in the second Tuesday or the fourth Tuesday just for a workshop. We could set a workshop anytime to
Okay.
talk about this.
Sure.
That's true.
Yeah, I
Here
think
we
we're
are
all,
today,
we're all
and it's
committed
the-
to it. So
Yeah,
we're-
because that's
Second
that's
Tuesday
a
of
lot
the
to
month.
put on you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't want you to, something like this, I think we just have to.
we don't want to
get it
burn you
right.
out.
Okay, can we just review what areas we're looking at? And did we want to add anything up there by Lake Leatherwood?
Yeah. Let's see here. To the east of Lake Leatherwood, there's a bunch of county roads that I'm making an assumption that there wouldn't be a county road there if there wasn't also structures to support that county. I mean, if you see that directly east of our current city limits
Where it
on
says
the very
20
north, yeah.
2062.
Right, all those
206.
county, so I think we ought to go almost all the way to the edge of, to 208. I think 208 stopped there, only because,
Mondale.
yeah, that's what I was saying, Mundale Road there, yeah. And then come down, and then you got Highway 62 again on that side. And of course, we would go south to 62 and just come on down that whole east side all the way to the point where we see the creek bed where we're going to stop. So just straight at that creek bed where it bends there at Dog Hollow Road. You see that?
Yep.
Dog Hollow Road?
Yep.
So I think if we just stop there, and we have our other boundary we talked about, which was Lake Leatherwood Creek, and we just stop right there, and so all that from Claiborne Creek all the way to Mahogany Drive, 187. So we stop right there where 187 and
Jumps
to the
off
east.
62?
Right.
So nowhere further north of Lake Leatherwood on 20?
Right, nowhere further north until,
Mundale,
because
yeah.
one of the reasons why I'm asking that is because I really don't know where the Holiday Island markers are. I tried to talk to them a while back about if they were going to publish something to the city on their boundaries, but I don't think they have. I don't think Holiday Island has published a city limit boundary map yet.
Not sure.
But I know they have signs up saying, you're entering the city limits of Holiday Island, but I haven't seen a map, so.
Something we'll find out later, though. I mean, we can
I
check
do
again.
think that we need, at some
You want
point,
this one?
whatever we put on the table,
wanna take it home?
we're going to need to
Well, I took
defend.
the other one.
Right.
Is that marked?
And we're going to need to defend it based on what the likelihood is of certain types of development or multiple types of development in that area.
Right.
Well, it's fairly easy to defend that going down 23 South.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's easy, yeah.
That's
Right
low-hanging
side,
fruit,
right.
absolutely,
Boom.
right? It's pretty easy to defend that going out 62 East, right? Absolutely. And you could make a case for some of this area over here east of Passion Play Road. There's residents in there. There's great vistas. There's more likely some more residents. And you can cut through over to 23, okay? So you could possibly defend that. You could certainly defend, although you're going to get some pushback, up and down Pivot Rock Road area, starting to
Right.
backfill
Right.
that. That's defensible, right?
Yep.
And I even think this area over along 23 on the way to Holiday Island
Yeah.
is defendable.
Yeah.
The real question is that in the planning, is that this is a long-term growth plan
Right.
where the city may likely be able to provide water, sewer, that's highly unlikely anytime soon, but at least fire,
Right.
police, and lay in zoning and use regulations. So the further we get away from those core areas of impact here, I think the less defensible it gets. I'm not saying let's don't do it.
Oh, no, I'm with you.
Right?
No, I understand.
Yeah, so you always have to have, it's a lot of chips on the board, right?
Yeah, there's a lot,
So,
right.
because you might have to throw a few chips in. I'm just saying, whatever we come up with, we need to defend it, in my opinion.
That's correct, because that will be, there are certain areas that we've talked about already tonight, you know, that I know that I've had individuals tell me that their lawyers are coming, you know, and you know, and so I said, okay, you know, we got to do what we got to do, and if that happens, that happens.
Well, sure.
And so the reality is that you know, the reality is that hadn't been done in decades, needed to be done. Whether the city decides to do it, to expand or not to expand, that's up to them. That's not
We
what's
set
on
the
our
plan.
table. And what's on our table is, if you were to, here's some areas that you should maybe consider.
Yeah, this is just planning suggestions so we can
Right.
establish a map.
I understand. I believe me, I'm all on board.
And they may disagree with
1000%.
every area that we,
I just know that the plan that we put on needs to be highly credible.
Oh, sure.
And it can't seem to be too much of overreach.
Sure.
That, yeah, is it conceivable in 50 years they might be able to provide water and sewer there? Sure. But there's other areas much more likely.
Right.
We're
Yeah, go ahead.
not trying just to make a land grab.
No,
We're
no,
not
it's
just trying to
about-
make a land grab.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not a land grab. We're
Okay.
just
Yeah.
Well, I think
discussing
we're
the
all-
future.
yeah.
It could be 20 years, it could be 50 years. Anyway, but yeah, so we're coming,
If I may, I think that's also why, to Susan's point, we do this now with where everything's really big and we come back at the next one. Hopefully, we've all looked at it a bit and talk a bit more because as anyone knows who's familiar with this city, you can't just make plans based on a map and then assume that's going to work.
Right, right.
that's right. No, you're
That's
exactly
kind of
right.
where I'm going with it, too.
and
Yeah,
really
yeah.
honestly, if somebody from city council wanted to come to our next workshop, they could do
Oh,
that.
sure, they're always invited.
I mean, they don't
Sure.
have to, it doesn't
So
have to be
anybody, yeah,
specifically
anybody
just
can come.
their
Audience can
workshop.
come, the public is welcome. Yeah,
Right,
Sure, we'd
so,
love to have.
Can I say one thing?
Anyway.
Did everybody get the email from Mayor Barry regarding House Bill 1510?
That's why I added it to the bottom
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that.
it's on the
Okay,
bottom.
never mind. Got it.
Yeah, and it is a concern,
That's
but.
specific planning and both
Yeah,
stuff.
and
Okay.
House Bill 1510 hasn't even made it out of committee yet. So it is, another hat I wear is I'm the county committeeman for Carroll County. So my job is politically to stay in tune with all the House bills that could affect Carroll County and make sure that all the people that should know that do know.
Since
about
you've brought it up, and it's now become a material part of our conversation,
Right.
why don't you summarize to me, right, the key elements of House Bill?
Okay,
10?
so it differs in the way that it kind of, I think, Susan and me were talking about earlier, it was a kind of a strange situation, but what it is it, in the first couple of lines, it talks about limiting a city's ability to expand. And then it goes on talking about unincorporated areas of a county, limiting those powers. And so it's a weird bill in that it is obviously part of, I think, 1445 in the House bill for short-term rentals, in that it is now trying to incorporate things outside of city limits that would be, maybe that county had limited those and it would restrict them from limiting those type of restrictions for short-term housing as well. So it's kind of a,
I'll read the bill.
yeah, it's, and I can send everybody a copy of it. I have a copy of it on my phone now.
Well, until somebody tells us to stop, we got to keep moving forward.
That's right, that's right. And I think, I think we've done some good work here, and we're going to have to close it up. We got about 10 minutes, I think, to our next meeting.
I just have a question. Tom, are you okay working with Cassie?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you were kind of volunteered and you didn't say anything, so.
I did. I threw him into the fracas. Okay, well, thank you. So we're going to, out there, adjourn the workshop. So thank all that are here, and we will reconvene at 6 o'clock for the BOZA and Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, everybody. Do you think they're ever, Cassie, do you think they're ever going to get Wi-Fi in here somewhere where we could, because I could bring all this up on here? Yeah. As a mobile hotspot?
Conditional use.
I think this is for our conditional use permit discussion.
Yeah. Oh, cool, because I could bring up this whole thing on here. Anyway,
It's a visual.
I'm thinking about section lines.
Yeah, like what?
Hey, Fergie, do you know anybody in town that can change computer batteries?
I could choose a laptop.
Uh-huh.
Different kind of laptops. Some laptops are not changeable.
It's a Dell.
Okay, it depends on the model, but if you could text me the model, I can let you know if it's changeable. And I do have some there's some local people that I can do as well. It's not,
But yeah, I mean, I've got the new battery.
okay, yeah, it's about this long, it's about square, about that long.
No, not that long.
Yeah, but it's a square.
Yeah.
Yeah, normally on the bottom, there's some screws on the very bottom, but yeah, I can take care of it.
Okay, I'll get hold of it tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, I just build computers but before they became throwaway items.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't, yeah, I mean, sometimes, unfortunately, throwaway technology, 20 years ago. Yeah, I'm kind of geeky in that way. Telecommunication design engineering for 32 years.
I have forgotten that. Okay.
Computers, database.
Yes, on the workshop, yeah.